Happy Friday. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. Man, I had some really good conversation with some great coaches this week, and we got to talking about something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But you study it, and you kind of look at, and it's a kind of a business model thing. When you're doing consulting and things like that. But the Dunning-Kruger effect is basically this. It's a line that shows wisdom and experience, and then on the other side is confidence. So confidence is here, wisdom and experience is here. The most dangerous time for a young professional is when their confidence and enthusiasm and passion is at an all-time high, but their wisdom and their experience is at an all-time low. In the very beginning, when they get into a new profession, they're at what they call Mount Stupid, or Mount Dangerous is what it's called, for the Dunning-Kruger effect. And that's where they're so excited about what they think that they know that they don't understand that they're neglecting a lot of the thought process that comes with a lot of different types of education and experience. So, I'll give you an example. Back in the steroid era of baseball, I was training a lot of baseball players. And there was, from high school all the way up. And the major league guys were basically conveying to me that, hey, if we don't gain a tremendous amount of weight, we won't even get a chance in the big leagues. They're not even letting guys pitch that don't weigh X and Y and Z. And if you run a 6'3", 6'4" frame, if you won't weigh 240, 250, you aren't getting to play. So what do? Every single one of those guys, we put on about 35 pounds that off season. And here's what I did is, as a young coach, and this was in the aughts, early, mid-aughts. As a young coach, I looked at some things out there and decided to go in on them. Okay, one of them that we vetted in the early aughts was the West Side Barbell. Well, it's really exciting when you first get into it. Okay, and then you realize it's actually for the sport of powerlifting. And a lot of those things have been vetted a long time ago. But if it's new to someone, then they're really excited about it and they think they're reinventing the wheel. It's been around a long time, and a lot of people don't even dispute that, but it's not the end-all be-all. So we went in on some of those concepts. Guys gained a lot of weight, and they all got worse and had the worst season of their career. Now, why did this happen? Well, several reasons. Number one, I did what they told me to do, and I'm the professional they came to train them. But I listened to their concerns, and I immediately went and addressed it in a way that I thought was best. So the first thing I did wrong was we conformed to a narrative. We went to go gain weight because that's what we were told to do instead of focusing on performance. And even though we moved weight fast and we adopted some powerlifting principles and some seemingly progressive things way back at the time, I mean, this is over 10 years ago. When we did that, it didn't work. And guys, injuries went up, little things, and also their velocity went down, the ball flattened out. Some of them, their velocities went up, but their ball was flat. Spin rate back then wasn't a thing to measure, but we knew there were some issues. And guys just played terrible. So there's so much evidence out there that just putting on weight and lifting heavier weights doesn't necessarily transfer to performance. But going back to this Dunning-Kruger effect, when you're a young coach, say you jumped out of CrossFit and jumped into performance training, well, you're starting a profession over. Your confidence is high and your wisdom and experience is low. So you're at the peak of Mount Dangerous, or Mount Stupid as they call it. You're going to get really excited about little concepts. So I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be West Side Barbell. It could be anything. And you've got an incomplete approach to the holistic picture of high performance because you're just limited in your education experience, and you're not going to be able to see past some of these issues and narratives in the beginning. So that's a dangerous time for your athletes and the people you are trying to get to work with you, because you are absolutely sure of what you can do for people, but you really have no idea. And that's what's dangerous. And this is a conversation that's difficult to have with some parents because They're coming across people that are really passionate or may have, may really be sure about what they're about to do for someone, but really they don't know. And just any type of thing that you completely sell out to, for instance, you can always tell the young coaches or the inexperienced or uneducated ones they'll just completely go all in on different methods all the time. Like, let's say they jump from CrossFit to some weekend certification they got in some city, and then now they're big on some powerlifting metrics, and then they just switch on this. That's a sign that they don't really have an educational base or experience. Principles don't change, okay? What changes is methods and practical applications. Principles don't change. Strategies, techniques can change, okay? But if someone's jumping around on their principles, they probably don't have a foothold on a broad scope approach to how they want to work with an athlete. So I would look for that. On Westside Barbell further, I think it's an incredible thing that Louis done. It's been studied for a long time. Any type of bilateral movements as a singular response to performance training is incomplete. Outside of powerlifting, it's incredibly incomplete, but that doesn't mean it's not useful. So I know a lot of people that go off conjugate method. Conjugate method is not Westside Barbell. Conjugate method was around well before Westside Barbell. In fact, a friend of mine, Dr. Nicholas Romanoff, was in the Soviet Union at the time that a lot of these concepts were being brought up. And so we've talked in detail about some of these concepts. And quite honestly, it's misunderstood what that is. Louis has done a fine job in what he does in implementing that for his athletes. But movement is more dynamic than that. And there's a minimum of 8 force vectors that every athlete's got to move through competently with speed, power, and strength. And so I obviously believe in strength and conditioning, but strength and conditioning are just a couple components. And if you think you can get what you need from athletic development off of 3 to 4 different types of speed and rate of force lifting approaches with the barbell, you're wrong. And in fact, not only are you wrong, if I had a team that I trained, I'd want to play against you because it would be really easy to show it. The ultimate expression of training results is competition. And if your athletes are dominating in competition, and they're seemingly getting better in competition in correlation with the training you're providing, you're doing a good job. That's the measure. Okay. I can create any type of training system and show you numbers improving to justify that I'm good at what I do. Any of them. Just as my experience as a coach, I've been able to figure out how to do that. That doesn't mean it always works. I have had athletes lifts go up 150 pounds in 8 weeks and they not get better at sport. Okay. I can say this because I was caught in that trap when I was a very young coach. I'd only been in this industry for 4, 5, 7 years. Okay. Now that I've been around and learned from a lot of really great people, and I have people in my network that constantly I vet things with and check me on my thought processes, I've learned to go beyond that. And I think one of the things that you got to look for is if you're around a coach or there's a young coach around you, who are their mentors? Who are they checking with? Are they absolutely sure of everything they say to you? If they are, that's a sign that it's a problem. It's a problem. Who are they learning from? How is that person thought of in this profession, in this industry? By people that matter. Have they jumped professions? Have they changed professions 2, 3, 4 times? What were they doing? What are they doing? That's something to consider. So this isn't about any one person or any one thing. It's just been coming up a lot. And I got asked in a podcast about the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I thought it was a cool thing to think about because all of us go through that. It's a natural thing to go through. And I think, bargain break, and I think that we've got to just know where we're at. And when we're at that part where our confidence is at an all-time high and our wisdom and experience is at an all-time low in that corner, that's the peak of danger for our athletes. And that's the peak of danger for us as a professional. That's when you need to surround yourself with people that are mentors or people that have experience in those areas that know what they're doing. And too many people have too much ego too much arrogance to have those people place themselves under those people from a standpoint of knowledge and experience and ask questions. And I certainly don't. In this profession, um, most people know me as the guy that will bug them to find out what he needs to find out for his athletes. And if I can't bug you and you won't be my friend, I will pay you. So, and then you can either give me the information or I'll get your certification or whatever. So, I've got no ego when it comes to that stuff, and you need to look for people that are in the same. Um, and I just think it's important to consider that just because someone's got passion and they've got time for your kid, and they're pretty sure of what they're doing, those aren't all good things. You need to consider why those things are the case. You need to look into the history of what have they done before. How excited were they about those things? Have those things been proven wrong? Are they not, or what have you? So, um, all stuff to consider. I hope you guys are having an awesome Friday. I'm gonna pop off of here. Um, Anybody got any questions before I drop off of this? Scroll up. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Audrey. Bailey. RPR is correct. That'd be a good example too. So RPR is something that we've gotten into, and we know a little bit about it, but we don't know a ton, and so we're fooling with it. And I'm not ashamed to say we're fooling with it. We're not going to lean wholly on it. We're not going to change our whole system because of it, but we're going to vet it, and that takes time, and it takes self-reflection and the ability to reach out to people that you respect, that have different thought processes than you, and just figuring it out. And I respect everybody that does that with everything, anything. Yep, you're right. You're right, Rich. It happens a lot. Cavender, that's a great question. I think everything that's worth anything is both. We have scientific principles that we're grounded in, that are based off of foundational science, biomechanics, and research-based literature. In fact, all our coaches have to take a CSCS, which is what the test that you take after you have a degree. It's a postgraduate certification program, like getting a PT license, a CSCS. So we're grounded in science there. Now, the application is up to interpretation for a lot of people. So experimental is probably not a word I would use, but we're always trying things to see if they're effective. Now, we usually try things on ourselves first, but we age and we get old. So it's not accurate for a 40-year-old man to go try something and it worked for me and me say this works for these athletes. That's a silly thing. So experimental would be in low-risk situations where we've already attained results that we want, or we're in a situation where we're playing from an advantage with an athlete. We will try some things. Quite honestly, our most experimental playground is our higher level athletes. Why is that? Because you can do things safely with them because of their kinematic intelligence and their ability to move. I mean, their locomotive abilities are pretty incredible. So it's harder to mess them up in any way. And not that you would ever attempt to do that or even risk that, but that's typically our experimental ground, if you will. When I hire a coach, I want someone that is open-minded. I do not like hiring great ex-athletes, because if you're an athlete that had a high level of success, you typically think you know what to do. So I don't like hiring. You look at us. I mean, look at APEC. Look at me. Look at her. We're a bunch of nerds. Okay, that's what we are. We're science people. We played the game on every single thing. Here's one thing you will find in common with all my employees: they played the game that they played on a level higher than they should have. I want overachievers, but I don't want the best. I want people that can see what our clients are going through. They know how it feels, and they know how it is to be in that situation. If you're a pro athlete on a high level, I played football professionally for an arena team, but that doesn't mean I can identify with a great professional athlete, because I can't. I wasn't that good. But what I can say is that I know what it's like to be the smallest. I know what it's like to be the weakest and the slowest. And I know what it's like to need to get better or not be able to play. And a lot of pro athletes don't know what that experience is like, and they can't put themselves in the client position. So I look for people that are open-minded, that are willing to learn, great communication skills, and have a passion. So how do I convince athletes that even though they are faster, stronger, and velocity up, that other training may actually be better still? I think that's a great question. Look, tracking numbers for like vertical jump, like I've seen that you've done, is amazing. And that's a great way to prove to the athlete that the work is paying off, and also track results from a standpoint of just training adaptations. But then taking that and cross-checking it with injuries during the season for that population group, and or breakaway goals for a female soccer player, and or all these different things can help you really sift through, okay, what is my training actually really doing? What's it actually really doing? What are some common things, some threads that you can find that you can attach to those adaptations? Anything that's happening more than 5% of the population that you have is probably can be attributed positively or negatively to your training. So if you've got 65 athletes and you've got 19 hamstring injuries, it's going to be hard to say that you don't have something to do with that. If you got 2, I doubt it. Same thing with like an ACL or things like that. But again, back to your question, I think just letting them understand that performance is very dynamic. It can't be put into a checked box of max squat, bench press, or 40 time. There's a lot to have to go into it. So you got to sell your athletes on the concept that training unmeasurable things gives you unmeasurable type of ability on the field. Now, you can't just go and do a bunch of weird stuff and functional stuff. You got to address the principles of human performance. Look, ladies, guys, you got to get strong. Now, you have to be able to express power. You have to be able to jump in at least 8 different force vectors. You got to be able to rotate and rotate with power. You got to be able to move in all 3 planes of motion. You got to be able to do all these things. There's so many things athletes need to get better at. There should never be a question that there's something else they can do. I don't care if their deadlift's gone up 500 pounds. I don't care about that. That's good. That's one of about 1,000 things, right? And that's what needs to be sold to them, is that really everything's training. There's no warm-up. There's no cool-down. Training is training. You got it. Hey, you know what? I didn't even think about that. That was not on purpose. I'm not scared to try out things, Cheney. People make fun of me and laugh at me and talk about me anyway, so I might as well have fun with it. That's a good question. What do we do on a weekend off? It depends on the athlete, man. Some athletes really feel like they're getting good rest just shooting some baskets or riding a bike. Some want to be really lazy and watch Netflix, and I let them decide what's best for them, and then we'll monitor it. Now, if they start coming in on Monday and their body's moving terribly, or we're doing some testing, some physical testing that's pretty objective and it's terrible, then it's time to intervene and start making suggestions that, hey, whatever you're doing is not working. So, and sometimes we have monitors. Like I wear a whoop band. A lot of our athletes wear a whoop band, and I'll just kind of give them some feedback if I see some consistent themes in their data. But I got to jump off of here. You guys are amazing. Please take what I say with a grain of salt. It's from my perspective. My perspective is biased, and even though I've got over 20 years of experience in this field, I know very little. I'm constantly learning all the things that I don't know. But here's something I am sure of. If somebody's really positive that what they're doing is the thing that you need, and they're on that edge of being really confident and passionate, but not being inexperienced and uneducated, that's a dangerous point. And you need to really vet that. Okay, you really need to make sure that they know what they're doing. And the best sign that someone knows what they're doing is they'll tell you they're not exactly positive, but they think something. Okay, that's a good sign. So you guys have an awesome Friday. All love.